Welcome to LeaderLife Fitness's Morning Time Mobility. Why I suggest mobility in the morning is that every step becomes a more corrective step in your body. Once you're loose and limber, you move much better, you walk much better, you move your arms much better, you stretch to get that piece of paper off the floor much better. So it's very important to be getting limber earlier in the day. So my suggestion is do morning time mobility as much as possible. And if your body's really beaten up and broken, this is something you can do as a recovery day.
Before we start with your mobility drills, we're gonna go into a 6-minute flow. This way you're nice and loose and warmed up so that when you're actually doing the drills, your body is moving much easier already. Watch out for the next video, we're gonna bring you right through it. Your flow is going to start with 6 walk out to Spider-Mans, then 6 push-ups, 6 up and down planks, which you could regress to alternating shoulder tap as Jeff shows, and then 6 air squats. You're going to repeat that for 6 minutes straight. Once you finish that 6-minute flow, we're now gonna slow down and bring you through the mobility drills, starting from your neck and going down.
We will be starting with the neck, the cervical spine. Very important to really mobilize this area, and we're starting from the top down, so let's begin right now. I'm gonna stretch my neck, starting from the top down. I'm gonna clasp my arms, flex down, bring my neck as far as I can to my chest. From there, I'm gonna make the biggest neck circle I can possible. Tensing my arms down, head down. That's 1 rep. And I'll switch the other direction. And notice I'm really challenging my neck to really get to the furthest point possible. I'm going to do this 2 rounds each side. After that, I'm gonna go to work on my shoulders. We're gonna start by making 2 shoulder circles, starting with reaching our hand forward as high as we can. Once we can't go any further, rotating our shoulder out, making the biggest circle possible. Once we finish 2 forward, we'll go with 2 back. Rotating our wrist again, making the biggest circle possible. Again, reaching back as far as we can, rotating out, and reaching up as high as we can to end in a nice circle. From there, I'll switch the other hand, again performing 2 forward and 2 back. Notice as I fully extend my arm up, I'll cut as far as I can and really try to make the circular path as best I can. Once I reach my arm back, I'm rotating all the way up and following suit for the 2nd repetition.
Now that we've done our neck and our shoulders, we're gonna move down a little bit lower into our thoracic spine.
For your thoracic spine or T-spine, we're gonna start with a standing mobility exercise, which is gonna be a T-spine circle. I'm gonna start with crossing my hands over, grabbing each shoulder. From there, I'm gonna bring my chin as far as I can to my chest and try to bring my upper back down as far as possible. Once I can't go down any further, I'm gonna then start with making the biggest circle possible. 2 times to the right and 2 times starting with the left. The intention is just to move your upper back. A lot of times people will move their lower back. You really want to initiate through the upper back, the thoracic spine, like this. One of the best things you can do to really focus on your upper back and not your lower back is to grab an object like a pillow. From here, you're gonna squeeze as hard as possible. From there, it's gonna be a little bit easier to make that thoracic spine circle.
The last part of our standing mobility is for your hips. So if you're out there doing the limbo, this one's for you.
All right, you heard of Magic Mike? Well, this is Magic Jeff. We're gonna start with bringing our hips as forward as possible. From there, we're gonna make the biggest hip circle possible, one side, and then we'll switch to the other.
For the second half of our mobility work, we're gonna be down on the floor. So now's the perfect time to grab your mat or your towel, your water if you need, and get comfortable.
So the first thing we're gonna do is be stretching our ankles. So I want you to get your pad, or if you don't have that, get a pillow, and you're gonna basically sit on your ankles for 1 whole minute. Now, if you have the mobility for this exercise, we want to go back as far as possible, really trying to maintain that flexibility in your ankles. If you can't go down too far, just hinging or moving back and forth is a great replacement. Moving on up the ladder, we're going to work on our hips. Notice Angela's arms are right underneath her shoulder blades, and she starts to perform these hip circles. First thing she's gonna do is bring her knee as far as she can to her chest. From there, she's gonna rotate out, making the biggest circle in her hip joint possible. She's gonna go 2 times with the right and 2 times with the left. From there, she's gonna go backwards, all the way up, rotating out like a fire hydrant and trying to reach her leg as far as she can, going close to her shoulder. Reaches back again, rotates out a little bit higher this rep. This exercise should be all hips, meaning the hips should be the only muscle working. A lot of times I'll see people moving their elbow, especially the opposite side, or rotating their body. From there, you're not working your hip anymore. You're basically compensating, and that's something we don't want to do. We're gonna go right into cat camel, which also works the thoracic spine or T-spine, and it also strengthens your lower back and shoulders. Notice Angela's gonna keep her arms right next to her shoulders, and she's gonna work her lower spine as far as she can down. Once she's done that for about 5 seconds, she's gonna breathe out all her air and push those arms away, trying to reach her upper back, her T-spine, as far as she can forward.
You want to hold each ending position for 3 to 5 seconds. This way your body really feels that motion and repatterning that we're working on. Notice how Jeff pulls his shoulders away from his ears in the top position here. And when he comes down, he's pushing his back as high up towards the ceiling as he can.
Now that we started our dynamic stretches and we finished those off, now we're gonna go to our isometrics and hold longer stretch poses for 30 seconds to a minute.
For our static mobility, today we're gonna focus primarily on our hips, starting with the hip flexor stretch.
Getting down into a lunge position, Angela's gonna hold this hip flexor stretch for a 1-minute pose. Notice she's putting her pressure in her knee that's on the floor into that pad and squeezing the muscle around her groin as tight as possible for 1 minute. To increase this stretch, she can elongate her toe on the back foot and lean forward slightly to get a different feeling in the front of the hip. Once 1 minute is over on the hip flexor stretch, Angela will switch legs and again, follow the same routine on the opposite leg. To increase this stretch, you can bring your arm up and you want to bring the arm that the knee is down. You're going to reach that arm as high as you can and work on breathing through your stomach to get a little more flexibility in the hip flexor. And again, holding this pose for 1 total minute. Once Angela finishes a 1 minute stretch on the right and a 1 minute stretch on the left, she's gonna right into the same pattern, but just leaning forward, bringing both hands outside of one of the knees. She's gonna lean with her chest on her knee as far as she can forward for 1 total minute. When you're stretching this, you're getting a little bit increased mobility on your ankle, your hip flexor, and lower back. Once 1 minute is finished, Angela's gonna switch legs, bringing that leg in between her arms, hands down, and lean as far as she can to her chest. Again, holding for 1 minute. The next pose in this mobility is gonna be a straddle pose. You wanna bring your legs as far as you can out and reach your arms as far as you can forward. We're gonna hold this stretch for 2 minutes. To make this stretch more effective and more comfortable, you can grab a pillow and sit on it to elevate your hips. From here, you want to reach down a little further, and if that's easy, you can take your hands and place them underneath your knees or calves and push out a little bit further with each hand. We're staying here for 1.5 minutes, so get comfortable, really focus on your breathing, especially through the stomach, and keep it going.
Once you're done with that straddle stretch, you're gonna come into what's called 90-90. This is gonna stretch your hip in internal and external rotation. Notice how Jeff has his knees in line with his hips, one forward, one to the side, and he has a beautiful 90-degree angle within his knees. He's gonna flex his arms out, holding a lot of tension in his upper body, and lightly press his knees and ankles into the floor. You're going to hold this stretch for 30 seconds in 2 positions. One with your back leg in the middle of your arms, 30 seconds here, and the second with your front leg in the middle of both of your arms. Now this might feel really tough, and that is perfectly normal. You might even feel a cramp begin to happen. Try to hold still and fight through that. Once your final 30 seconds are up, you're going to switch to the other hip by pressing your feet into the floor and rotating your body to the other side. Jeff is making this look really easy. So if you have a little trouble, that is perfectly normal. You might even have to get up and get back down. Don't worry. So again, we're holding 30 seconds in 2 positions on each side.
Thank you for joining in on day 5. Today was a lot more mobility, and it's great to practice that, especially with the time you have at home. Movement is medicine. It's so important that we move better and better, especially as we age. And this is something that you're not going to get better overnight, but in due time, your mobility practice will pay off. So please start as soon as possible. Your health and movement depends on it.
Thank you guys for joining us today on day 5 with our mobility drills. We're looking forward to tomorrow. We're moving outside, so hopefully it's sunny and you guys can get outside with us.